Hi, everybody. This is Heather Alderman, the Executive Director of COSMA. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to prepare for and write your self-study document. So I'm going to share my screen with you and get this slideshow going. All right. So just to recap, if you've watched any of the other sessions that I have recorded for you during this conference, the COSMA accreditation model is outcomes-based and mission-driven. And that is important because this whole self-study, many of your analyses are focused on how you're meeting your mission, the degree to which you're doing that. And there is a large focus on the analysis you will have of your outcomes assessment plan. And that has many parts, and I'm going to talk about that. So I'm not going to get in too much detail about these other elements, but we of course did not make up the COSMA accreditation process from scratch. It is based on best practices. It is a developmental process. So while you will be just writing a self-study every 7 years, you will be providing updated information annually. And it's very flexible. And you'll see that as we talk about the principles, how many different programs can participate. The annual membership fee is $1,800. Those are really the only costs that you incur aside from a site visit, which occurs every 7 years. So you don't have that as any sort of an annual budget item. What you're going to do first, before you actually would get to the step that I'm talking about today, is apply and attain candidacy status. And then any sort of conversations that you have ongoing with the commissioners about your outcomes assessment plan, let's say, or other aspects of your program, you will resolve those, and then you're able to write your self-study document. Once that is completed or very close to that, you would talk to me about establishing a timeline for your site visit. We do require that you submit your self-study at least 90 days prior to the site visit, and that enables everybody to have time to get organized. And then you have your site visit, which normally lasts 2 days and is with 2 people. And then at one of the 2 meetings of the Board of Commissioners, they would make an accreditation decision. So what I'm going to focus on is the organization of your self-study document, who's involved, and then we'll go through each of the principles, and there are 8 of them. So just to kind of touch on a few things here, we have a template. And so what you'll do is follow that, and it basically is our principles document, but with some of the extra wording taken out. So you're going to be answering all of the self-study guideline questions. I think I've already touched on timing. You do need to make sure that there is ample time between when the commissioners meet to make a decision and when you schedule your site visit. You can write your self-study at any time of year. You can write it as soon as you're granted candidacy status. So there's no stopping you there. There are, of course, many other factors that might make it difficult. And then the length, the responses usually come out to maybe 70 to 90 pages, and then you'll have a lot of appendices, and those are going to be a little bit more bulky, like CVs, for example. But there is not a type of length or that you would have. I think if you sent me 10 pages, I might think that you probably didn't do enough. If you send me 350 pages of writing, that's probably too much. So somewhere in a normal range there. These are the 8 principles of accreditation. So I'm going to be giving you some hints and tips and discussion around each of them and what you should be providing. Here's a little bit about the organization. As I mentioned previously, we do have this template. So the template divides the self-study into 2 sections. The first one would include a title page and a table of contents. And think about this as you would a dissertation or another project where you want the people who are reviewing it to have a very easy time finding the information. They should not be confused. You don't have to be fancy about it. You could have hyperlinks that will help folks toggle through the document, but you don't have to do that. But as long as the pages match, so if I need to go to page 35 to read about curriculum, I would like to be able to do that and not wonder where it is, and then be able to go easily back and forth between the appendices and the document. So this first section contains all of this information I've listed here, plus all of the writing that you'll be doing on the self-study guidelines. And then the appendix or volume 2 is many other pieces that are asked of you, and it's all kind of outlined as you're answering those questions. So I mentioned including things like CVs, but there are some other things here that you can see. Some of these may not actually be appendices at all, but maybe just a URL that you provide for the team and the commissioners to look up. Make sure that they work. That's one of the jobs that I have as well, is to make sure those links actually go somewhere. If you have an internal intranet that is only available if there's a password or something like that, then think of another way that you can provide the information. All right, let's start with Principle 1, Outcomes Assessment. This is really the cornerstone of the COSMA accreditation process. As you can see here, it is the most important component. It is because it really sets forth your vision of what you want your students to know and be able to do by the time they are leaving your program. So you're looking at data annually. You are really trying to improve what you do and improve the student learning that you're able to document. You're also making sure that the information that you gather from outcomes assessment both informs and is informed by strategic planning processes. And then sometimes you also will be linking this to budgeting, because you may be asking for more resources that would require that kind of planning. All right, so there are 5 areas that are addressed in our template for outcomes assessment, which you will have already been familiar with because you are in candidacy status. So the mission and goals are pretty straightforward, and that's what you are using your data to measure the degree to which you are actually meeting them. The student learning outcomes are the items that you're actually trying to measure about what students are going to know. Maybe it's content areas, curriculum content areas. Maybe it's some skills or some critical thinking or ethics. You know, there's a lot of different possibilities, and what you choose and how you measure it is going to be based on your on your program's mission. There are a couple of areas, numbers 3 and 4, basic skills development and personal development, that are really about how the student is able to fit in the general education requirements and be proficient in, say, math and writing, which would be some basic skills that your university probably requires. And then personal development is quite flexible, but sometimes it's around resume writing or around some issues related to networking. It could be a lot of things. You may have a career center on campus. You may provide a lot of services that could be very beneficial for your students. And you can kind of describe all of that in the personal development piece. And then your operational effectiveness measures are actually about your academic unit or your department, you know, the whole of sport management. So you might have some items, I've listed a few here. Some that I did not list would be maybe around teaching. So you could, if you're a teaching institution especially, or that's a focus that you want to measure, you may want your faculty teaching evaluations and those scores to be a part of a goal you have to continue to improve your teaching or to receive a specific level of teaching from students. So in the self-study, you will be providing a copy of your outcomes assessment plan, but the biggest thing that you're doing is analyzing it. So you want to talk about the degree to which you met, exceeded, or did not meet benchmarks. And that would be both for your student learning outcomes and your operational effectiveness goals. But don't forget the things that you did well at. You don't just talk about the things you didn't meet. You definitely need to talk about, well, we did a great job, so maybe we need to make this goal a little higher. Maybe we need to change a benchmark. So in other words, you may have some changes that you make even when you are meeting all of your benchmarks. So you're talking about what went well, what maybe needs improvement, what you're going to do about that, what you did do with that. You're identifying, some action plans. Okay, we need to do this and this. We need to maybe do a curriculum map and reassess where we're teaching different things. Maybe you want to revise a rubric, something like that. And then you're letting us know, okay, we did implement these changes and this is what happened. And we have some general conclusions. We think that this outcomes assessment plan is effective, it's working. We are able to utilize the information and make improvements, or, now that we're through this cycle, maybe one, maybe two times, we think the student learning outcome needs to be modified. So there's a lot of different things that could happen. You will be having separate outcomes for your different degree levels. So for your master's program and your doctoral program, you would have different student learning outcomes. Because we're also asking you to measure your entire department, those outcomes the operational effectiveness goals don't change because it's just for the department. So they may include items that specifically refer to a master's degree or a doctoral degree. All right, let's move on to strategic planning. We at this time do not prescribe what needs to be included in a strategic plan. You do need to have a plan for your department. It's probably going to be based on and related to any college or school plan, and definitely a university plan. So just make sure that you, this is what you would provide. There's copies of those other plans, and you would demonstrate to us how all of those things are related. So you need to do some sort of external review. You need to do some sort of like a SWOT analysis. How you do this, though, is really up to you. And there are many kind of best practices out there involving stakeholders. We're going to be asking you all those types of questions. So it kind of gives you a sense of who should be involved and what types of questions that you might want to ask yourselves. The timeline in terms of how long, how often you do this process is really up to you. Some do it on a 5-year plan basis. Some do it right in conjunction with when a university is going through a strategic planning process or your college is doing it. That's totally up to you, and you just let us know how that's going. All right, curriculum. There are 7 areas here. Some of them are very straightforward. We just want to know what you have in your general education classes, what you have that's sport specific, any electives that you have. Maybe there are other cores that you focus on, like business. So those are all fairly straightforward. We want to know how curriculum is changed. How do you think about modifying any of the curricular pathways that your students go through, new classes, revising old classes, all of that. If you do have a master's degree and or a doctoral degree, you of course would lay out what those curricula also look like. And of course, a doctoral program obviously is focused more on writing a dissertation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the common professional component areas. And I think the next slide will focus on those. That's only for the undergraduate degrees. So what you're going to do is show by evaluating all of your syllabi how you are having contact hours in each of the curricular areas. What it does not prescribe is what classes you should or should not have. So we will see that next. So these are the common professional component areas. How you meet them is totally up to you. I guess I'll just say that some of the areas we would expect that you are offering across the curriculum. I would say technology is one of those, diversity is one of those, and maybe ethics. So it sort of depends on how everything is organized. Also experiential learning can certainly be a part of many different classes. You will, when you are analyzing your syllabi, be double counting, maybe even triple counting areas, depending on what topics you cover. And the template for that is located in the principles document, and you will analyze all those syllabi. Then you'll be taking numbers that come from that document and putting it into a big table. So you'll be able to see very clearly in what classes, what you cover, and how much that adds up to over the sport management core curriculum. Oops, I went the wrong way. There we go. All right, so faculty, another principle that has multiple areas. The faculty qualifications principle is exactly as it sounds. We just want to know for both your full-time, your part-time, or adjunct faculty at what level they are qualified. We have doctorally qualified, professionally qualified, and minimally qualified areas. They're all defined fairly clearly. If you have any questions, you can always ask me and we can talk about what that means. The faculty load would be exactly that. What classes are you teaching and responsible for? What other responsibilities do you have? And how does that fit and match with what your university requires? So we want to make sure that you're not too overloaded. And this can be an area where perhaps you are quite busy and you're trying to convey this to the accreditation site visit team so you can have a conversation about resources. The other areas are really about program coverage. Specifically 4.3 is about how for an undergraduate program, how your full-time faculty are covering the CPC areas, meaning that you are have expertise or you are able to be in charge of different CPC areas. So look in the document to see the details on that. And then the rest of it is really to ask about the policies that your department, your college, your university has regarding these other areas. All right, so a little bit of extra information here about what the faculty qualifications mean and what you're providing. Same with the load and then the coverage. All right, so some people have asked me questions about the differences between research focused and then teaching focused institutions. So research in its most, I guess, basic form is not necessarily required. You do need to look at the different scholarly and professional activity areas and see what kind of scholarship are you engaged in. It may be that you're able to see from this process that you are heavy-handed on one side and need a little bit of diversification. So it's really up to you. And certainly if your institution has requirements that are very specific in multiple areas, then that's probably where you're mostly spending your time and your energy. And that is absolutely legitimate. So that's pretty, it's pretty flexible, and you're going to be able to make some justifications. Certainly your site visit team may have some good suggestions for you. And just to kind of go in right now to Principle 5, these are the areas of scholarship that you will be asked to talk about what you are doing. This is both for the full-time faculty and part-time faculty. The professional activities area might be working with COSMA on one of our boards or going on a site visit. It could be also advising local sports industry partners, anything like that. So it could be pretty broad. Principle 6 covers a number of areas. And so we will, this is where you're also, when you're writing this, are going to be working across different departments within your university to find out the numbers that will help you fill out these forms. So you will be talking about how much the budget of the overall institution is, what it is for your program, what percentage your classes are of the total credit hours that are happening in the university, and then what percentage of your budget is there. So you're going to be finding all of that information out. We do ask for salaries, and that's again very confidential information, which we keep that way, but it's to make sure you're on par with other departments and possibly even maybe your region. We will be asking you to analyze and rate your classroom space, your office space, any kind of computer labs or other areas that you use. And then we'll also be asking you to perhaps get your media center individual to write a little bit about what types of library resources you have for both your students and for faculty doing research. And then in complement to this, when you have a site visit, assuming that it is in person, and we will certainly be doing those again at some point, but they will be able to see what's there and meet with those individuals. We do want to know not only what technology and educational technology support you have, but really the degree to which you think that that is working for you. And then if you have any other locations where your degree is being offered, like physical locations, or maybe it's online or something like that, we would either want to visit that or just want to know about what's going, where is this degree offered, and um, is that a place that your site visit team would need to go, or is it not enough of those degrees are being conferred there, and we can just look at it virtually, that kind of thing. All right, Principle 7 is about the relationships that your department has within other departments or across departments on your campus, and then also with business and industry. So there's a lot of words on the slide, and I'll let you read that a little bit here. But those linkages that you have can really span a number of different areas, as you can read there. And then we do ask very specific questions about an internship experience that you may have. We don't really require an internship, so you may be discussing this as it relates to other experiences that your students have. But as you could see from the common professional component areas, experiences and experiential learning is a strong focus here with this accreditation process. Another thing that you would be differentiating between undergraduate and graduate programs is in those admissions processes, because you probably do not have as much control in the undergrad, for the undergraduates as to how they're admitted, but you may for the master's or doctoral programs. So we want to make sure that those individuals accepted would have a reasonable chance of success, and want to know what those criteria are. So you'll be talking about that. The remainder of this principle focuses on maybe you have some relationships with other institutions. It could be community colleges or other colleges nearby where you transfer students back and forth for various reasons. Maybe it's with high schools in the area. It may be with a university that is in another region of the globe. And maybe you have a joint degree program or some sort of exchange, something like that. Not only would you put it there in 7.4, but you'd also talk about it in 7.5, which is international sport management. So as you can see, there are two that are similar there. It's the International Sport Management Principle and Diversity in Sport Management Principle. You're talking about how those different elements are covered in terms of your curriculum, co-curricular activities, and other activities. So it could be a lot of hands-on stuff. It could be a lot of learning stuff. It could be that you're literally going to another country, that kind of thing. And then the external accountability, really it is only for those programs that get accredited that they actually can be in compliance with this principle, because what we're asking you to do is post your outcomes assessment data on your website. And we have very specific language around which you are to refer to your accreditation status. So you can't quite come into compliance with that until you're actually accredited. And we realize that, but it will be talked about during your site visit. And then the last principle that you'll be writing about is educational innovation. So we want to know your university's posture toward educational innovation, and what kinds of things you're doing, what you think is innovative, what kinds of technology is present in those in what you're doing, what you think you might do. Are there any ways in which you think you can improve in this area? How do you stay kind of on the cutting edge of pedagogy and technology and sport industry? All right, so that is basically in a nutshell how you would write your self-study document. If you have any questions, I'm going to be hosting 2 different Q&As. I will talk about anything in those Q&As, so you can ask me anything there. And I'm always available, of course, offline outside of this conference, but I hope you enjoy seeing all of the different presentations that we have, and that you attend as many live Q&As as you can. And thanks for attending the conference and this session. I'll see you all soon.